let's talk about what James was just bringing up there, and it kind of segues into our very first game. We're going to be talking Northwestern at Penn State. Were you before that Penn State game of the mindset that Indiana was better than Penn State, or they just had a good chance of beating them, or what were your thoughts?
Um, I did think that Indiana was going to win against Penn State because mainly I feel like Cignetti's just so much better of a coach than James Franklin, and his attitude kind of permeates through that program so clearly. Um, and Penn State, I mean, I'm not trying to make any enemies here. They've just been kind of choke artists against teams of similar ilk over the last, I don't know, decade. And this was really, other than that Illinois 9 overtime game, this is really the only other time that they've kind of played down to an inferior opponent against UCLA. And this is about as, and this isn't a shot at UCLA, but I mean, as inferior of an opponent as you can get in the Big Ten. You know, they hadn't. The craziest stat from that game is UCLA had not led a single minute the entire season coming into that Penn State game, and against Penn State, they did not trail for a single minute in that game. So just shout out to the UCLA players and the coaching staff there for being able to come up with a game plan to take down Penn State in just a less than a week's time because Jerry Neuheisel wasn't even playing call and plays until Wednesday of this past week, so or Tuesday rather. So
Yeah, he
yeah,
didn't
in
even know
terms,
how the headset worked. That was one
I
thing. He's
know.
like, he was calling plays for an entire drive, and Nico didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah, Nico said that that 50 some yard rush was an uncalled play. The one touchdown at the goal line was an uncalled play. So it just seemed like they had, for lack of a better term, a horseshoe up their butt that game. Just everything went well for them, and everything for Penn State did not go well. So
It's just a crazy, crazy game. Illini Bubba says, "Did Zach get a glow up?" Comment was hilarious. Come on, I'm sorry, I did not see that one. Bubba, let me look. Oh, there it is. Okay, did Zach get a glow up? Yes, yeah, Zach got a glow up for sure. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the other crazy things about UCLA, and I referenced this, I think on X once, and maybe said it just briefly on here, but if you looked at FanDuel, they have an option for where you can like bet on if a team wins two or more games or three or more games, and not every team is on there, but typically the teams that are kind of in that win total range are on there. And UCLA, of everybody in the 2+ wins range, was the only team that wasn't favored. Like they were the only plus team. They were plus 210. Everybody else was minus 50 or more or less, whatever you want to call it. They were the only ones that weren't favored. And so for UCLA to go in and get that win, we knew they had talent, but I just had no idea that they would actually pull that off. So we'll see if Penn State back home in this one might not be much of a home game with how much the fans are upset right now. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm sure they'll cheer them on, but Penn State is favored by 22 and a half in this one over Northwestern on FanDuel. The over under is currently set at 47 and a half. I mean, what are your thoughts here, Mike? Like, do you think Penn State is going to turn it around? Do you think they're just going to have to kind of rely on raw talent? Do you think the team is maybe just going to essentially give in? What's your thoughts?
I mean, I think this is a true test of like how bad does the team want to kind of salvage its pride the rest of the season? Because I think it's a foregone conclusion that the playoff just has come and gone. They're not going to make the playoff. They're not even in the unlikely scenario that they win out the rest of the season. It's still unlikely that they make the Big Ten championship game just based on how all the other schedules set up and kind of Oregon's probably going to make it. Ohio State's probably going to make it at this point. And when you have a 10-2 Penn State team with the loss of UCLA on their resume, I mean, there's going to be teams that probably have a better resume. And I don't even know why I'm even going this far because I think we all kind of know that's not going to happen. But regardless, I think this is how much pride does that senior class have between Drew Allar, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, Denny Sutton? Like how much do these guys want to just salvage this season and not be the laughing stock and not be the pariah of Penn State the last decade plus? So how much can Penn State bounce back from a tumultuous 2 week span?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you give me a question. That was your question right there. I mean, that's kind of the biggest question of the whole thing because obviously Penn State has more talent than Northwestern in this one. They're at home. They should win this one by 20, 30 points plus. Like, no disrespect to Northwestern, but that is just where these two programs are at the moment. But they also should have beat UCLA by 20, 30 plus in that one. And so you have to wonder if the Oregon game did get to them. Now they lose to UCLA. They're unranked. Everybody's saying there's no way they make the playoffs. They'd have to win out, and they have Ohio State, Indiana, and Iowa on the schedule next. Not in that order. It's Iowa, Ohio State, Indiana. But they have all those on the schedule next. How are you going to make this happen? I mean, this is one where you have to have belief in your team. You have to have leadership, and I I don't know. Mike, you tell me, do you get tired of the travel comment? Because James Franklin used it. I know people say it's not an excuse, but it sure sounds like an excuse, and I'm getting tired of hearing.
I think anytime they say like X, Y, and Z, but that's not an excuse, blah, blah, blah. Like you're trying to like underhandedly say it's an excuse. Yeah, I'm tired of it because Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC have to play half their games on significant travel. And you don't hear them complaining about it. It's only the teams going east to west. So sure, it's a disadvantage. Any team that has to travel that far for a game and drastically divert kind of what their general planning would be, yeah, it's a disadvantage, but everybody deals with it a few times a year. So just because you happen to lose one of those games, it shouldn't be one of the first things out of your mouth at a press conference that, we got to travel this far, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, everyone like Oregon came west to east and, took care of business last week in the toughest environment in college football. It was the most impressive win of the season so far across college. I don't know if it's going to look that way by the end of the year, but I guarantee you, if Dan Lanning had lost that game, he would not mention that at all. And that's just a good leader. That's what Dan Lanning is. He's a much better leader of men than James Franklin. So yeah, it's certainly an excuse to bring that up in the press conference.
And I don't hear any coaches like after the game was over being like, guys, you would never believe what we overcame during this game. The travel, we overcame it. Like everybody wants to bring it up if they lose, but nobody wants
Mhm.
to be like, hey, Maryland was only half the battle this week. It was the
Yeah.
travel as well, and we defeated
Mhm.
two opponents. They should put two wins in our win column or anything. So I just, look, I get it, and I think other people get it. I think it's been well documented that it is a factor. I just don't think coaches need to mention it every single time they
Yep.
lose on the other coast or, somewhere in the Midwest or whatever it is. So we'll get to my question now. My question is if Penn State can actually finally cover, because that's what you need to see from this Penn State team if you have any hope. If you get the win and it's by like 10 points, okay, whoop de doo, for sure. Good. But you have to go out and actually cover in this game. Penn State is 0-5 against the spread so far this year. They did not do it against Nevada, not FIU. They have not done it, at least on FanDuel. They have not done it on any of those games. And you had obviously UCLA cover, and against Oregon, you didn't cover either because Oregon won by a touchdown that one. So it's just insane to me that Penn State with the easy cupcake schedule going into the year, they can't cover. I get it against Oregon, against UCLA, it shouldn't happen, and they're going to have to let loose. They have a lot of pressure on them this weekend if they want any semblance of a successful season, and we'll see how it goes. So, any final comments on it or anything, Mike, before we move on?
No, I think any prognosticators had their take on the Penn State debacle from last weekend, and let's look forward. What do you got this score being, JR?
Yeah, I got this one being 31-17. I do not have Penn State covering, but I do have them winning the game by a couple scores. So I'm taking the over. It feels risky, but it's what I'll do.
And I have Penn State winning 27-14, and I have the under hitting. So I think it's roughly the same margin, but I just don't see this one being a terribly high scoring affair.
Yeah, I don't either. Zach emailed me or texted me his picks as well, and Zach has this one 31-13. Same thing, taking Northwestern and the other under. So, like I said, Zach and I think very much alike. He's 4 points off of me, so
Yep.
that's how we do it. All right, let's get to the